UFC Fight Night, Rozenstruik versus Almeida. Let's get after it. Welcome back to the Green Means Go channel. As always, thanks for being here. Happy you stopped by. If you don't mind hitting a like, hitting a subscribe, that helps me immensely. Continuing to grow my channel. Gonna do these UFC bets every week, in addition to Dinger Tuesday and some other things as we get going here. So I do have my window open today. It's a beautiful 70-degree day. So if you hear any background noise, that is why. However, I do think this microphone should only pick up in this area, but just want to be sure I clarify. So we are going to break down Saturday's card in just a little bit. I do want to talk about last week. Last week, our picks were up a total of 3.25 units. I'll go ahead and move my image here. All right. So we hit some good things, lost a few things. So total on the last two cards, because we've only been making these videos 2 times now, we are 0-8 on method bets, down 2 units. Again, these are quarter unit plays. Round bets were 3-1, up 0.61 units. Those are half unit plays. And our best bets, which are full unit plays, we are 9-7, up 3 units. So our total after 2 is up almost 2 units with a ROI of 9%, which I would say is pretty darn good. So we'll hope to continue that as we go into this week. Now, before we get started, we're only, a few minutes into this video, and I'm just going to say this right now. Before we even look at this, before you can even screen peek on my picks, I'm going to look you in the eyes and admit this card was incredibly tough to handicap for me. And I will explain why. There are multiple fights that I struggled with. So I need you guys to understand that while I may have a play, I'm going to add some caveats to those plays. So if we have a bloodbath of a week, this is your warning. All right. So tail reasonably and comfortably to your own risk tolerance. But I'm just telling you, I had some tough times picking some of these fights. Okay. So our first fight of the night, and I'll go ahead and get a little closer here. Can we do a little more? Can I hear 150? I don't love it. Let's go 140. All right, our first fight of the night is Jessica Rose Clark versus Tainara Lisboa. Now, 2 pretty new fighters on the scene. Lisboa comes in at a very, very small favorite here. And I went ahead and just threw a little dart at this first fight, and I'll show you why. We're going to go with Lisboa by submission. And if you look at Jessica Rose Clark, her last 2 losses have been by round 1 arm bars. So I do see why this can look a little chalky, if you lose by 2 round 1 arm bars back to back, your third fight, you're probably going to really prepare the grappling a little better. So I can see why this may be a little bit of a trap play. But at plus 700 for a chick who can get the submissions, and I think has had her last win was a submission, right? I just think plus 700 is worth a quarter of a unit. Again, I recognize it's a trap play. I recognize that it's the obvious choice. But at plus 700, it's obvious, maybe, but it's tempting to me. So that is going to be my official play for the first fight of the prelim. The next fight on the prelim is Gabe Green versus Brian Battle. And if we look at that over here, Gabe Green comes in at a small favorite, minus 130 on PointsBet's your best place. But PointsBet sucks, and I'm willing to say that now on air because of their crypto email scam, and they didn't even respond to the email, the phishing scam, until like 4 hours later. Some guy lost 12 grand in his crypto, and you could say that that's on him, but ultimately I do think it's on PointsBet a little bit. So let's just get rid of PointsBet. 135 on these other books. And this purely is a pick based on resume. This is a resume-driven selection here. And if we go look, Gabe Green has fought Gary to a decision, who's on this card, and Rodriguez to a decision, who's on this card. Interestingly enough, these guys are both fighting each other. And I just think that those two challenges prove to be much tougher than Brian Battle's recent fights. So because of that, I do think that Gabe Green is a little more seasoned, and for a full unit play on -135, I think there is still value in that. So that is going to be my official play for the second fight of the night. Moving to the third fight, we have Kim versus Bohm. This one I'm completely fading. Both of these women, if you combine their last 6 fights, they've lost all of them by decision. This to go the distance like -400. So again, no value in that, in my opinion. You see, they don't get too many finishes, and neither of them have ever been finished. So I'm not willing to step out and predict what's going to happen there. Now, if you do, I think you have great value, but I don't have a selection. So because they've both lost by decisions, their last combined 6 fights, I poured over this one, and I could not find a choice that I was satisfied with, that I felt comfortable telling anyone to pick, so we are avoiding this fight entirely. Fourth fight on the card is another one that I really, truly struggled to come up with confidently, and I think I arrived at what I think is a decent value play. So we got Pete Rodriguez versus Nathan Levy. Rodriguez is actually a significant underdog, plus 205 on the main books here, FanDuel and DraftKings. But I think that he is the play, and I think him by knockout is the correct side. So if you look at Nathan Levy here, decision, lost by decision. Yeah, he has some submissions, but these are going back a little bit farther. But when you look at Pete Rodriguez, round 1 knockout, loss in round 1 knockout, round 1 knockout, round 1 knockout, round 1 knockout, round 1 knockout. Now, I know last week, if we flip over here to last week, I had a Braxton Smith, same idea, right? Smith knockout because of his round 1 knockouts versus Porter. It didn't end well. Porter submitted him or not, technical knockout in round 1. I'm going back to the well that gave us poisoning. The well that gave us dysentery. I'm dipping my cup back in, and we're going to go Rodriguez knockout here against mainly a grappler. I think Pete can find a way to catch him maybe on a takedown attempt or something. And I think that, again, styles make fights. I think Pete Rodriguez knockout at 390 is a value play. And again, we're only talking a quarter of a unit here. Maybe I should do this just so... where is it, guys? View, freeze, 2 rows. Just so you can see. Yeah, that's a much better. Okay. So that is going to be the official play here. Again, only 0.25 units, so be cautious here. But I do think value is found in this play. All right. Next one is blank. I don't even take time to write notes. These dudes have a combined, do the math. I mean, how many fights is this? They have a combined age of 70 years old. 37 and 33 years old. My lean is Silva de Andrade by decision, but I don't feel comfortable picking either of these guys. Looking at their last fights, they're similar in terms of resume. They've both been through it. Sometimes career positioning matters in these fights. Guys who are a little older may not come in with the same motivation as guys who are rising. These guys, I think, are at similar points in their career. Stamen obviously has a little more. I'm rambling a lot for not picking, but I'm trying to explain why this one was tough for me. If I had to lean anywhere, it would be Silva de Andrade money line at plus 135. Potentially by decision if you want to reach a little farther. But again, I'm staying off. Okay, Chase Sherman and Carl Williams is the second to last fight on the prelim. And I find this actually to be fantastically interesting. One of the biggest favorites on the cards is Carl Williams at -400. Looking at his fights, I'm not impressed. I'll say it plain and simple. This guy's a heavyweight, and heavyweights are typically the guys who get the finishes. When I look at his card, okay, 3 wins by knockout. When did that happen? Okay, once in 2022, 2021, right? 2020. He's not been on the scene for very long, but he has so many decision wins. So, sure, maybe his chin is there. But again, who is he fighting? Is he fighting guys who have the power? I just, when I look at this card and I think about some of the guys that he, comparing him to some of the guys that he could be fighting, there's not enough on this that make me confident in a minus 400. Now, we are talking about Chase Sherman, who's 16-11, which is not glowing. And when you look at his last, 3 years in the octagon, it doesn't help anything. But I just have this feeling, okay? And if we want to call this pick just a feeling gut pick, I do think a guy who has 15 knockouts, if you want to say that his weakness is maybe submission, even though he has kind of an even dispersion of losses, his last time that Chase Sherman's last time he was knocked out was 5 years ago, okay? He has lost 5 of his last 6, but we are going to go a full unit. Yes, you heard me correctly here. A Big Daddy-O bet of 1 full unit on Chase Sherman knockout at plus 650. Again, there is a little bit of analysis in this. A lot of this is just simply a feeling. So if you are sitting here like, this guy's an idiot, then don't tail it, okay? I'm not going to be offended by you not tailing this one. But occasionally I'll get these leans that are strong, and it's more of, I'm going to kick myself if this happens and I didn't bet it, because I just have a feeling, up and coming, been in the game. Why not prove to this guy that you're still here, right? So Chase Sherman knockout, let's do it. Let's put a 1 here for the next time I fill this out for Carl Williams. Okay, last fight of the prelim, we got Matt Brown and Court McGee. Ultimately, you look at this and you may see this, right? Ooh, Court McGee 7 submission wins versus Matt Brown 10 submission losses. And I'll be honest, that did tempt me. But looking back here, a submission loss in 2020, and then you got to go back to 2016 before he was submitted, and you got to scroll all the way down here before you really find where he was submitted after submitted. That's 10, 15 years ago. So I think it's safe to say that Matt Brown has improved in the ground game, and he comes in at a decent underdog, but I don't think he gets finished by Court McGee, who you could argue has the greatest strength in his grappling. So Court McGee, and I also just think it's interesting that you look at Court McGee to be a minus 2 for 15, to have lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of your last 9. Tons of decisions. Holy mother of leaving it to the judges. I mean, peekaboo, who are you? Decision after decision after decision after decision. And that is why I'm going with a distance bet of minus 150. A little bit more juice than I would love to pay on a full unit play, but I think it's a good bet, so that's what we're going with. Okay, moving on to the main card, Tim Means versus Alex Morano. And I am going to reach here a little bit at something that may feel a little obvious again, but with the line, I do like the value. So a plus 750 quarter unit method bet of Alex Morano to submit Tim Means. Not a ton of deep-rooted analysis here. And I can see Means, finding a way to pull this off. Mike Perry. Where's Mike Perry been? Good grief. Is he okay? He lost to Rodriguez by submission, Holland by submission, both in the last 3 years. The one thing that does worry me slightly is if you look at Morano's, last 5 years, does he have a submission in here? No. Which is why I put this in the corner unit. maybe he resurrects that part of his game in this fight. Maybe he sees a weakness in Tim Means and his camp gets him ready for this type of a fight. But I can see why you may want to fade this pick, and that's totally fine. But it's what I'm going to play because I do think there's value in it. Okay, second fight on the card. Carlos Ulberg versus Poitiera. I don't know how to pronounce that, and I should have looked because last week I said Henry Cejudo's name wrong, and I got absolutely obliterated, deservingly so. Okay, this fight I just feel like is another trap. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it is trash day, and it is going down the road. Okay, so we'll test my microphone here, see how good it is. Ulberg is an absolutely monster of a favorite. I really hope you can't hear that. It has made its way down, though. Okay, Ulberg is a monster of a favorite. But again, you get a young guy who's come in and hasn't beaten anyone that I'm really impressed with. He lost to Kennedy Nzechukwu, who I believe fought last week, and won by, what did he win by? Decision? No, submission. Yeah, he got his first submission win last week. And he loses to him, and when you look at Poitiera here, maybe also not the best resume, but a lot more explosive in terms of his finishes. Round 2 knockout, round 1 choke, round 1 knockout, round 1 knockout. And flipping back over here to Ulberg, same sort of idea. Just think both of these guys are going to come in and respect each other's power. And if you want to get wild, I don't mind a Poitiera victory here. At plus 300, there is value. But I do think over 1.5 rounds at plus 110 is a good spot. Okay. Probably the fight I'm looking most forward to in terms of just watching from a technical perspective and an entertainment perspective is Daniel Rodriguez versus Ian Gary. Now, Ian Gary this may be controversial. I think he has likened himself more than anyone else to sort of the Chimaev role. Obviously I'm comparing them, but I do think Ian Gary comes in, he's fighting a lot in a short time. He has flashy wins. He is, undefeated. He's giving Chimaev, right? Since in the last 2 years he's won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a lot of wins in these years. I do think Daniel Rodriguez is his biggest test, and I think the books and the public. And again, I'm admitting that this could be wrong, right? Do I need to do this? I'm admitting that I could be wrong here. But I think the books are adjusting based on the public seeing Ian Gary do this, okay? Arguably a big up and coming name. Maybe he's already came. Maybe he's an up and came name. Versus Daniel Rodriguez, who loses a weird fight to Neil Magny, and I think he's better than Neil Magny. A canceled fight with Holland, which I think would have been a great fight. But outside of that, I think he's had 2 canceled fights with Holland. I think Rodriguez is going to be the strongest test Gary has had, and I think we could see a Rodriguez knockout or decision win. So we're going to go double chance, half unit, Rodriguez knockout / decision at plus 270. So if he wins by knockout or decision, we win the bet. I don't think there's any way he subs him. Could be wrong. I don't think Gary's going to let him. I think his takedown defense is going to be strong enough to stuff anything. But this card is a lot of feeling, and I know it's not probably the best thing, but at least I'm telling you that's what I'm going off of. So we could lose all 2 of our units we've made up these last 2 weeks, but a Rodriguez knockout or decision I think is the best play. Okay, now the best news for you guys is my 2 best bets of the card are the last 2 fights. So I'm actually going to double dip here. We did skip 2 fights. I'm going to go with a little double dip, and I'm going to play 2 things here. This is a 3-round fight against 2 very experienced, very explosive, very well-known fighters. Anthony Smith versus Johnny Walker. Anthony Smith is a guy who is, so let's just take a look at the odds here. All right, even fight, even juice across the board. Anthony Smith's a guy who's on the distance with John Jones. I mean, his resume, these numbers speak for himself. I mean, 33 finishes in his career. But Johnny Walker has fought and fought and fought and does not get finished. He just does not suffer the blows. I think the best bet here, okay, and if you look at his last few fights, he's fallen off a bit in these last few. I think what I find to be the most valuable fights, Paul Craig is a demon, and he knocks him out first round. Ultimately, my best bet's Johnny Walker moneyline. I think Walker is in a little bit better shape and condition, and I think he has a little bit more juice left in the tank than Anthony Smith. So my best bet full unit is Walker moneyline. However, I do think this fight goes over 1.5 rounds. I think these guys both come in respecting each other's power, respecting what each other can do, and I think it's a feeling out process in round 1, and I think we start going after it in round 2. I think Johnny Walker outpoints him in round 1, and I think he continues to outpoint him and potentially knocks him out as the fight goes on, but ultimately I see Johnny Walker in over 1.5 rounds. 2 bets, a full unit and a half unit. That's what we're rolling with, and I think those are bets that I am confident in, and it's more than just gut. Okay, finally, and this is when I feel like a book is giving free money, it does make me stop, because when I am uber confident, there's potentially something I'm missing. The main fight of the night, Almeida versus Rozenstruik. This is a 5-round fight, and the over 1.5 is plus 170. We see it time and time again. Now, the caveat to this, the counter argument to this is, look at this, over 1.5, 170, is the fact that these are heavyweights. And this is Almeida, who, if we look at what he's been able to do in his career and lately, it's finish. Round 2, round 1, lost round 1, round 1, right? So I get that he does not take too long to get done what he needs to get done. But Rozenstruik has a chin, okay? He knocks out Dawkins in round 1. I don't think he's knocking out Almeida that fast. Alexander Volkov, he loses in round 1, okay? Decision to Curtis Blades. He beats Saki in round 1. Cyril Gane, he loses by decision. Junior Dos Santos, he beats him in round 2. Francis Ngannou, he loses in round 1. How many of these are 5-round fights? I would have liked to... Okay, here we go. Okay, so bear with me here. This fight was 3 rounds. 3 rounds. Okay, a 5-round fight. Main event goes to decision. All right, 5-round fight. He wins. Okay, I don't think he wins, so I don't see him knocking out. They need to oil up those... I don't know if you can... Again, I apologize. Okay, Blades, 3-round fight. Goes the whole distance. Volkov, 5... This is the only one that makes me a little nervous. Dawkins, 3-round fight. Okay, I think this fight starts slower because it's 5 rounds. Advantage us. I don't think Almeida is going to knock him out. I think 170, plus 170, for over 1.5 rounds in a 5-round fight is the best bet on the card. I just think Almeida's path to victory is submission. And you're dealing with Rozenstruik, a guy who does not get submitted, simply does not get taken down. I don't know how you don't slam it. Ultimately, okay? I'm flabbergasted that they're giving out these odds. So that's what I'm going with. Okay, so I'm going to undo this, zoom it out a bit, move my head over here. Okay, so if you want a screenshot, if you can use this in any way, go ahead. As always, I appreciate you watching. Comment, let me know where I went wrong. And again, I apologize for the sort of sporadic nature of this video and how I was a bit back and forth on some of these plays. So best of luck. Temper your expectations with this one, and we will see you next week.